Okay. All right. So,
Hello, folks. This is Vaquero Kidd. I'm going to take you through loading on the Lee 6000 Pro 6-pack. So, I have an automatic case feeder, mini Mr. Bullet feeder, double alpha magnetic powder check. And
well, let's before you pull the handle, let's just make. I want to make clear that the case feeder comes standard with the press, right?
Yes.
So you see the case feeder, you've got the powder measure that came standard with the press. So the bullet feeder and the powder check were add-ons, but everything else comes with the press, right?
yes,
And you got the kit that includes the dies and the shell plate for the cartridge that you select, right?
yeah, it comes with dies, the shell plate, the case feeder, and and the powder measure.
Okay, and this is 6-station press. That's the 6-pack, right?
Yes.
You know, and those of you who don't know, have experience with progressive presses, that's a big deal because many of the high dollar progressive presses on the market, like the Dillon 650, 750, and my press, which is a Hornady LNL-AP, those are all 5-station presses. So that means that you have to make choices, you know, as to, are you going to have a bullet feeder? Are you going to have a powder check in a station? Are you going to crimp and seat in separate stations? And so you run out of stations really quick because 3 are taken up typically by dies, if not 4, and you got a powder measure in 1. But with the 6-pack, you know, like Vaquero Kidd's got it set up here, he can run the powder check die, which is, you know, confirms the level of powder after you charge the case, and the bullet feeder. So that's a big deal. But if you don't understand, you don't have any background with progressive presses, you don't get that. And so this is a feature again that you know, you don't get with say the Hornady press. And we looked at some online street prices for the Hornady press, which if you get the press, if you get it set up like this kit was set up, which means with the dies, with the shell plate, and with the case feeder, all the standard stuff that comes on the Lee, that's about $1,000 give or take. And the Lee is less expensive, and you know, it depends on the deal. I mean, sometimes you're always paying tax on any of it. Some places give you free shipping, others you may pay a little bit more, you know, however it comes out. But and we ended up, what was the average kit that we came up with on the price of the Lee?
It was around $350.
Around 3. That's what we said before, you know. And now you go shop it might cost you a little more, a little less, but about $1,000 for the comparable Hornady, and about $350 for this.
Yeah,
okay.
I looked. I think the cheapest that I saw, the all-inclusive bundle with the shell plate and the powder drop and everything, I think that the cheapest I ever found it was $339, but it was out of stock.
Yeah.
So I spent around $350 plus tax. I got free shipping. So yeah, $350 versus $1,000.
That's significant.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enough. And we're kind of in the middle of a reloading session, so the shell plate's full of cases and cartridges. But so let's ordinarily you've got sizing and decapping in station 1, then you can prime in station 2. Now you've already primed these, but
yes,
that's an option. And then your powder measure, powder charge is next. Then your powder check. Then the bullet feeder. If you didn't have the bullet feeder, you manually insert a bullet in the case at that point, right?
Set it on there,
right? And then he's got the Lee 4-die set. So the 5th station is the bullet seating. And then in the 6th station is the factory crimp die. So very easy to separate seating and crimping with this outfit. So and you're loading 45 Colt.
45 Colt.
All right. Well, I'm going to shut up and let you pull the handle.
Okay, so the first die that we're going to do is the case sizing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I showed you on the Lee Classic turret, I have removed my decapping pin because I've already got primers in there. We don't want to push out a primer that's not fired.
Right.
So we're going to size it. And it's going to turn. We're going to drop powder and flare.
And the beep beep is the powder check doing its job.
Then the powder check back here. Now we're going to drop a bullet on it.
Yep. Now that's a manual operation on my press because I don't have room for a bullet feeder.
Now we're going to seat that bullet down into the case. And we're going to crimp the bullet.
It ejects out of there. All right.
And that's that.
All right. And now this particular, just real quickly about the bullet feeder that you've got. Tell us about that.
The bullet feeder is a mini Mr. Bullet feeder. It's done by Double Alpha, the same company as the powder check.
Yeah.
They have a much bigger, more industrial version of it that's actually got a motor that will feed everything. It's got a big old hopper that comes out at the top.
Yeah.
But this is a little more economically viable because while it's still expensive, you might think it's expensive.
About how much?
But when it's $150.
Okay, all right.
But
you're still not to 1,000 yet, so we got
no, it's a whole lot more manageable than their main Mr. Bullet feeder. But when you get it, you will be so glad you did because it just works.
And the operation of that looks a lot like the Lee case feeder. You got four tubes on the case feeder? Is it four on the bullet feeder?
4 tubes on the case feeder and 6.
Oh, 6. Okay.
On the bullet
feeder. So you just manually put your cases and bullets in those tubes, and when the tubes run out, you just rotate them to the next one. Okay. Well, I'll say this about, as we were doing this comparison with this press and the Hornady, one thing I noted is, well, the Hornady does not come with a case feeder. It's a completely separate thing, and the case feeder on the Hornady is like the more expensive Mr. Bullet feeder in that it's not just tubes. You have a bin with a motorized collator, and you dump cases in the top, and you run it, and it sorts the cases and drops them base first, you hope, into the down the tube to go in. So that's a little bit more elaborate system. But now with the Lee, and that's what came with the Lee press in terms of the case feeder. But tell them what they could add on to the top of that case feeder if they wanted something a little quicker.
The case feeder, they have an accessory
collator.
Collator. It's sold separately from this case feeder.
Yeah.
It's like a big bowl that you put on these 4 tubes.
Right.
And you would just pour your cases up into that bowl.
Right.
And you just shake this.
And they orient and fall
and
in.
The weight of the base of the cartridge will make it fall down, like butt first.
Yeah. And I looked that up on Midway. It's $12 for that little collator.
Yeah.
So you're well shy of that $1,000 price.
I think at Mid-South it was like $10.99.
Yeah. Well, so how many rounds have you loaded so far? I know it's a new press.
It's probably about 100.
Okay. And impressions so far? So far so good, or?
It feels great. It has a little bit of resistance, but I'm coming from the turret,
right,
where you're feeding one case into one die.
That direct
this
leverage.
Is 6 cases into 6 dies.
Right.
So
And Kidd asked me, I'm used to running a progressive press, to run it and to tell me if I thought the resistance was as expected, and absolutely so. And I was not surprised to find that it takes a little more force or leverage. It's not that much force. You can tell you weren't straining to do it, but a little bit more resistance than with the turret. And I think that's because with the turret, you're running that linkage. You pull the handle, and you've got that central ram that goes straight up into the die, doing one operation. Whereas on the progressive, that ram is the pivot point for a rotating shell plate, and so you don't have the direct leverage. You're kind of going at a 90-degree angle, and I felt it, and I thought, it feels pretty much exactly like mine, exactly what I expected. Nothing unusual. So thank you for letting us video your new press, and we have one other cowboy shooter in our club in our area who has just received one of these presses, and I'm going to get the feedback from him so far has been very good as well. Sometimes there are little bitty tweaks and things, but nothing major that I've heard of so far. And for the price, I mean, it's just, and we're the beta testers on new products, of course, but from what we're hearing, I mean, it's obviously, functional. We just saw some loads being run. We'll see how it kind of plays out over the next few months as weather warms up and we're doing more shooting. But that's kind of the first look, and we'll cross our fingers that it continues to really work well. And so far, I mean, would you recommend this press?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now you started. Let's get back, because our focus often in this series is, the new cowboy action shooter who is also maybe brand new to reloading, and so you started on a Lee Classic turret, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, a good press for a beginner, would you say?
Absolutely.
Would you recommend a single stage press for a cowboy shooter?
No.
Okay. You didn't find that press too complicated?
No, not at all. I mean, like you said in your reloading, new reloaders with a progressive press, you can have your training wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could put one die in there and run all your cases into that one die.
Yeah. Okay. So you wouldn't think it would be totally ridiculous and unworkable and dangerous for somebody to start with this?
No.
And again, you could run like we did in the video. You could just put one case in it and run it all through all the stations, and then do another case, right? I mean, there's no reason you can't do on this press what we demonstrated on the Hornady press. It works the same way. Mm-hmm. I'm putting words in your mouth. That's called a leading question in law. Okay. That's all. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. Okay, well, we're going to shut it off. Try to keep this shorter than my usual long-winded videos. But again, thanks to Vaquero Kidd for giving us a peek, and we'll see you on the range.